Hey guys, welcome to my playthrough of Super Mario RPG. Now you may be asking, what makes this playthrough better than the other playthroughs available out there? A few things. First, if you're familiar with my channel at all, you know that Super Mario RPG is kinda my thing. I've released several videos detailing facts about this game you won't find anywhere else. I've also created a couple of fairly complicated mods, or ROM hacks of this game. Tinkering with the game's code, as well as playing this game to death since I was a kid, has given me a pretty broad depth of knowledge about this game that very few people have. I'm here to impart that wisdom to you. For example, did you know that the Terrapins in Bowser's Keep have a psychopath message, even though there's no way to have a psychopath at this point in the game? That message is, yo, what's going on? Second, we'll be doing everything, and I mean everything. We'll beat every optional boss, find every hidden chest, we'll purposely lose to the apprentices in Booster Pass so that they get promoted to Sniff It, we'll get the Star Egg, and more. I may regret saying this, but we'll even do 100 super jumps and get the super suit. You name it, we're doing it. I guarantee you that if you watch this run in its entirety, you will learn something about the game you never knew before. Now to the actual start of the game, where we control Mario. The enemies in the keep don't give you any experience, so avoid them at your leisure. Good time to practice your dodging skills. This fight, however, is forced. We'll be using what little flower points we have to use Mario's Jump special. Jump has a special property the game never bothers to tell you about. Every 2 times you use it, its base damage increases by 1, up to a max of 250 times, or 125 extra damage. I'm purposely not timing my jump inputs here, so it's easier to see. Watch how much damage I do this time. You'll see that I'll be doing 1 more than I have before. The Terrapins have a 1 out of 3 chance of skipping their individual turns, but even if they all attack, we're in no danger of dying. You kinda have to be trying to lose to them. I appreciate that even though Bowser's Keep is filled with lava, he still has these little guardrails on the bridge to keep up with OSHA regulations. If the original Mario Bros. Has taught us anything, it's that Bowser doesn't know how to make a bridge. Now onto the Bowser fight. This is where he went through his Phantom of the Opera phase and had a thing for chandeliers. Nice plot jump. Higher than a regular jump. Bowser himself has has 320 HP, but he's actually invincible. But we'll attack him once just to prove a point. Gotta keep him on his toes. While he does take damage, he won't be defeated even if his HP goes below 0. After 6 turns have passed, he'll mock you for being unable to damage him, and he'll stop taking damage at all. The point of this fight, as the princess is kind enough to point out, is to attack the chain holding up his chandelier, known as Kinklink. Interesting name. And there you go. That's the Bowser fight 1. Now for our dramatic finale. Bowser is down, but not out. Apparently Bowser has great aim, manages to throw not 1, but as you'll see, 2 hammers at the chandelier to knock you down. Remember that in the first Super Mario Bros. Game, the later Bowsers in the game throw hammers at you. You gotta love the continuity. However, Mario wins this fight by jumping on Bowser, which is not in line with that continuity. I'm not going to read the story for you, but I'll give you the gist of what's happening. Bowser kidnaps the princess, who was still called Toadstool back in these days. She hadn't quite resolved her identity crisis yet. Honestly, I use Toadstool and Peach interchangeably, so make peace with that. Mario follows them to Bowser's Keep. My theory as to why it's called Bowser's Keep in this game, and not Bowser's Castle, is that they didn't have enough character space to call it Castle. If you look in the data for the game's world map, there are 0 leftover spaces for additional letters in the names of the locations on the map. They used every letter they could. So yes, saving 2 bytes of data by calling it Keep instead of Castle was necessary. But anyway, Mario comes to rescue her, as he often does, and just as he's getting ready to save her, a giant sword pierces the heavens, scattering stars across the land. If you guessed there were 7 of those stars, you catch on quick. The sword crashes into Bowser's Keep, sending Mario, Toadstool, and Bowser flying in different directions. And conveniently enough, Mario gets sent to his own house. Plot armor is thick. Just like all plumbers, Mario has a giant pipe on top of his house. Don't ask, it's a union thing. Anyway, Toad, who looks nothing like a toad, is waiting for us. My theory is that he was originally going to be called Toadstool because his head is, well, a toadstool. But mid-word, the translation team realized they had already used that name and decided Toad was good enough. Toad is here to pick up the princess. I guess she needs a chaperone, which, honestly, how often she gets kidnapped, that's fair. But first, we need to use this save point. Not because there's anything particularly dangerous up ahead, but because if we don't, Toad will try to teach us how to use one. The real villains are the tutorials we're forced into along the way. But anyway, Mario, not really sure what happened with the sword and going flying, heads back to the keep to investigate. And that's where we find the source of the earthquake, a giant talking sword. In a world with talking mushrooms, turtles, dinosaurs, and whatever the heck Birdo is supposed to be, a talking sword is somehow one of the least weird things around. The sword is called Exor. It informs Mario that the castle now belongs to a group of villains called the Smithy Gang. Smithy Gang is made up of various weapon-themed foes that we'll encounter along the way, like Exor and Smithy. Recognizing that Mario could be trouble, Exor decides not to let him back in the castle. Using the power of his mouth moving really fast, it breaks the bridge and Mario is forced to retreat. All he can do is stand at the cliff edge, staring longingly off into the distance like he's in a 90s music video. If you want to see that cutscene again, you can just select Vista Hill on the map. Super Mario RPG was ahead of its time. You could rewatch cutscenes before that was even a thing in most games. Back to Mario's house, we have to break the news to Toad. He was given one job, which is to bring the princess home, and he's doing a terrible job at it. Mario's in a tough spot. He's a silent protagonist, yet he still needs to talk to people, so the developers of the game decided to have him explain everything through pantomiming. Genius, really. Now Toad wants us to tell the Chancellor of Mushroom Kingdom what's going on. We have to beat Toad there so we can make sure the Chancellor knows it's not our fault, it's Toad's fault. But first, we have a couple more tutorials to dodge. Unfortunately, Toad is OP and does damage to us by simply running into him. He gives us mushrooms and wants to teach us how to use them, but I don't see a point in using a mushroom to heal the measly 1 HP he did to us. Using items in this game is very intuitive. Some can be used in battle, some can be used in and out of battle, and some can only be used out of battle. You'll pick it up pretty easily. Next, he wants to teach us about timed hits, but we don't need him to explain that to us, because you have me. The basic gist of it is, if you press the timing button at the right time, whatever button you use to use an attack at a certain time, you can increase the damage that you deal. In the video description, I'll have a link to a website that'll teach you the timing for just about every attack in the game, if that's something you're interested in learning. The thing to know is that many attacks have 2 levels of timing, good timing and better timing. Obviously the timing for better timing is a smaller window, but that'll increase the damage you do or decrease the damage you take. Again, we'll save. Most ally specials have a unique way to time them and do more damage, but those specials usually tell you what that timing is, so it shouldn't be too bad. Here we are in the first real level. We don't need to fight everything that's here, but we'll fight a few things. Keep on using that jump, boosting that jump special attack power. Sometimes the Troopas just do nothing, which is handy. We of course want to get the treasure chests that are here. Extra spending money. Alright, we'll save Toad. I'll let you in on a secret though. If you don't save Toad, he'll still be fine. He'll show up in Mushroom Kingdom and tell you that he got caught up in some business. Thanks for the free stuff, Toad. This may be a good time to mention what flower points are. These are what let you use special attacks. You can increase your max flower points by finding flowers in chests and some other places, or by using flower tabs, flower jars, or flower boxes, which you typically get from beating bosses or other milestones in the game. We start out with 10, but we'll get at 99 before the game is over. You can also replenish them with syrup items, which Toad was kind enough to give us one. We want to get Mario to level 2 before we finish out this area, for a couple reasons. One, the extra level helps against the boss of this area. It's by no means necessary, but it is nice to have. And two, once we get to the Mushroom Kingdom, we gain our second party member. When you get new allies, their levels always start out the same. They're not dependent on the levels of your other party members at all. Our new ally starts at level 2, so for the sake of keeping all of our party members relatively even, I want Mario to be at around level 2 when we get that party member. After all, how would you know which party members are really the good ones if one is always at a much higher level? Toad, give us another prize. Thanks, buddy. Another chest with a flower in it. We should be pretty close to leveling up. Out of flower points. Here's how leveling up works in this game. You get guaranteed stat boosts every level, plus you can choose a bonus group of stats to raise. You can do HP, which boosts HP, believe it or not, Physical, which boosts physical attack and defense, or Special, which boosts special attack and defense. Each level up, one of those three choices will be higher than the others. Let's talk more about that when we actually get that level up. The nice thing about leveling up too is it always heals your HP to full afterward. Alright, let's do one more enemy here. I think that should be enough. It's always nice when the enemies just decide not to do anything. And there you go. So there you can see, here are our stat boosts for this level, and you can pick one of these three options to choose from. This time around, choosing Physical boosts attack and defense by 1, HP by 3, or Special attack by 3. Now each level up, one of these three choices will be higher than the others. This time around, it's Special attack that's the high one. Every level up, whichever boost gets the highest boosts, it rotates in a pattern. So at level 2 it'll be Special, at level 3 it'll be Physical, and then at level 4 it'll be HP, and it'll just repeat like that. I'm gonna choose Special for Mario. Mario is kind of an all-around character. He has merits both physical and special, so for him I just choose whichever bonus is highest. In general, you can't really go wrong with whichever boost you choose. The game is still very much beatable even if you choose quote, crappy, unquote, boosts each level up. You can make your characters more defense or attack oriented. Either way, you'll be fine. But now we have to rescue Toad one more time. Look at this hammer bro. He's just standing here, he's not bothering anybody. If Toad invaded his personal space, that's on him. At a certain point, you have to take responsibility for your actions. But unfortunately, we have to defeat the hammer bro because the plot demands it. And here we go with our first real boss of the game. I don't know why these Hammer Bros are so much bigger than normal Koopas in this game, but here we are. I think they're even taller than Bowser. This fight isn't too tough. They have two attacks. There's the normal hammer attack they just used, and a multi-hammer attack called Hammer Time. It wouldn't surprise me if that was an intentional reference to MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This. If you look closely at 90s video games, you'll find a lot of pop culture references. For example, in Chrono Trigger, Robo's theme sounds suspiciously similar to Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. And in Donkey Kong Country 2, the beginning of that song that plays in the swamp levels, like Mudhole Marsh, it sounds like the beginning of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. But this battle is perfectly beatable at level 1 if you didn't level up. You just gotta keep yourself up to date with your HP with mushrooms. But at level 2, they're not much of a threat at all. Alright, we get a flower jar for our troubles. That increases your max FP by 3, which is nice. Something to be aware of is that many bosses will drop items like that, but if you have a full inventory at the end of the battle, they can't drop the item. So you always want to make sure you have at least one free item slot when fighting bosses. But in addition to the flower jar, we also get a hammer. How's that for gameplay story integration? For some reason, Toad seems confused by the concept of a hammer and allows us to take it. I've heard people ask why Mario has an obsession with hammers in the RPG games. Since when does Mario use a hammer? The answer is literally since the first game he was ever in the Donkey Kong arcade game. Back in those days he was called Jumpman, and the girl he saved was Paulina. The hammer was the only weapon he had. Alright, before we do much of anything in here... Oh yeah, this lady traps us and forces you to jump. So if you get stuck right here, or near this pink lady, know that you're supposed to jump. But before we do anything here, let's go ahead and save. And that'll do it for our first video. In the second video, we'll recruit our second party member, we'll talk to the Chancellor, we'll do a few different things, including fight a crocodile. So, hope you enjoyed this. See you next round.